I'm Ann Dart.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome.
If you enjoy our show, please consider contributing to the Dark and Stormy Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will help us create better and quality content. There are also benefits to becoming a patron, such as exclusive content and Dark and Stormy merchandise. Become a supporter at patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Check our website for the link. We appreciate any and all contributions. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to episode 142 of Dark and Stormy Book Club. Today we have a visit with Dr. Ian K. Smith.
Dr. Smith was appointed by President Obama to his second term on the prestigious President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition. He is currently the medical contributor and co-host of the nationally syndicated television show, The Rachael Ray Show. Dr. Smith graduated from Harvard College with an A.B. and received a master's in science education from Teachers College of Columbia University. He attended Dartmouth Medical School and completed the last 2 years of his medical education and graduated from the University of Chicago Pritzker School of Medicine. Dr. Smith is the author of 15 books, 8 of them New York Times bestsellers, including The Clean 20, Blast the Sugar Out, Super Shred, The Big Results Diet, Shred, The Revolutionary Diet, The Fat Smash Diet, and Extreme Fat Smash. He is also the author of the critically acclaimed The Blackbird Papers, a 2005 BCALA Fiction Honor Book Award winner. Dr. Smith has written The Unspoken, first in the Ashe Cayne series. Former Chicago detective Ashe Cayne is desperate for redemption. After refusing to participate in a police department cover-up involving the death of a young black man, Cayne is pushed out of the force, but he won't sit quietly on the sidelines. He's compelled to fight for justice as a private investigator, even if it means putting himself in jeopardy. When a young woman, Tinsley Garrigan, goes missing, her wealthy parents from the North Shore hire Cayne to find her. As Cayne looks into her life and past, he uncovers secrets Tinsley's been hiding from her family. Cayne fears he may never find Tinsley alive. His worries spike when Tinsley's boyfriend is found dead, another black man murdered on the tough Chicago streets. Cayne must navigate his complicated relationships within the Chicago PD, leveraging his contacts and police skills to find the missing young woman, see justice done, and earn his redemption.
Welcome, Dr. Ian Smith.
Glad to join you.
You are best known for the Doctor's television show and your books, which I have a few, on diet and healthy living. What drew you to change course and start mystery fiction?
Well, I've always been a real lover of the genre of mysteries and suspense and thriller. I am a voracious reader of the genre. I like watching it on the small screen and the big screen. When I started writing fiction several years ago, of course, it was natural for me to write a mystery. Even though I've written so many diet and health books over the years, what most people don't know is that I've always had a love for mysteries and thrillers. It wasn't until several years ago, my first novel, The Blackbird Papers, that I published. And I followed that up a couple of years later with The Ancient Nine, which is about the secret societies at Harvard based on my true experience of being in one when I was an undergraduate. And so that's a really fun book. And then this book, The Unspoken, is the first book in an Ashe Cayne series. So it's going to be a series of books based on this private investigator in Chicago who used to be a former detective with the Chicago Police Department. This is very natural for me to write fiction. In fact, I've committed to writing 2 books a year for the next several years. I'll keep writing my diet and health books in April. They'll publish. In October and the fall, I'll do my mysteries. And this coming April, I have a diet book called The Fast Burn, which is how to burn fat quickly. And then next October, I'll have the follow-up to The Unspoken, which is called Wolf Point. That'll be book 2 in the Ashe Cayne series.
Good. I want to read that one. I enjoyed this book very much. Ashe Cayne left the police department under kind of questionable circumstances, and he's trying to rebuild his life and his career. Was Ashe built on a real person?
That's a really good question. Ashe Cayne, the main character, is a character that I felt was missing from commercial fiction. And I really had this idea years ago of creating this character who was very likable, fun, sarcastic, very smart, handsome, really tough, but also has a really good sense of humor and doesn't take things overly seriously. And that's kind of the sketch I had for this character. I met many police officers and detectives, so it was really a very nice coming and meeting of the minds for me because I've always loved crime fiction and mysteries and thrillers. And then I get a chance to work with the Chicago Police Department. So I worked with a lot of detectives. I went on ride-alongs with them, and I would hear all kinds of interesting stories about their experiences and their cases, all the things that went well and things that went wrong. And it just got my brain churning, trying to figure out, geez, I wish I could put this into a story. And the first case in the Unspoken is the case of a wealthy North Shore girl who goes missing. And her mother goes to our character, Ashe Cayne, to ask him to help her find her. Ashe, I guess you could say, is a composite of people I've met and people I thought of. And his first case is one that comes from some of the cases I've heard from real-life detectives.
Very interesting. I kind of got a Romeo and Juliet vibe from this story, at least on part of the storyline. Was that planned as you were writing it beforehand? The difference in the societies, the haves and the have-nots?
Yeah, it was definitely my plan. I love Romeo and Juliet. What many people don't know, by the way, is I also love love stories. And I know it's weird probably the most to think that, here's a guy who writes diets, he writes mysteries, but he also loves love stories. And I do. I've always loved love stories. I've always loved ballads when it comes to music. And by the way, in The Ancient Nine, my previous novel, there's a love story inside of that. And so there's a little theme here. And yeah, there are two love stories inside of The Unspoken. There's a love story between the girl who goes missing and her boyfriend. As you've noted, they come from very different sides of the tracks. They come from very different socioeconomic strata. And I just think that that difference really gives the story nice texture. And I love to juxtapose the differences of worlds, but how they still can come together because love conquers all, right? And the other love story, of course, is between Ashe and his kind of insider inside the Chicago Police Department, Carolina. They just haven't taken it to the next step. And so, yes, you're right. There are two love stories. The first one is one like Romeo and Juliet, and the other one is a love story of love not fulfilled yet.
Yeah, Carolina wants to move it along. Ashe has got to hold him back. Your character development was excellent. But my favorite character was the mechanic, the silent hour that was there. Were your characters drawn from real life when you put somebody like the mechanic in there?
So thank you for saying this, by the way. First of all, I love characters. In anything I read or write or watch, I love to see good characters who are developed. And by the way, they can be odious characters I don't even like, but they can still be interesting characters. Mechanic, it's interesting you say that. My cousin, by the way, who doesn't read a lot, which is very interesting, but he will read my books. He loves Mechanic. It's his favorite character. And he said, I need more of Mechanic. And more of Mechanic will come, by the way. Mechanic is Ashe's right-hand man. He's Lithuanian. A guy who I work with is a Lithuanian guy. And I just kind of used him as a biographical sketch for Mechanic. But of course, the guy I know doesn't have the potency and the fearlessness of Mechanic. Mechanic is a sharpshooter who's afraid of absolutely nothing. He's tough as nails. He says very little, but he understands a lot. And to me, that is a fun character. Mechanic will be there. And hopefully down the road, Mechanic may take center stage himself. So I'm working on my vision and developing him into that place. But Mechanic's one of those guys where the supporting actor sometimes can steal the scene from the main actor.
Yeah, he can. I enjoyed him a lot. Now, this book had actually 3 stories going. You had Ashe and his story. Then you had the storyline with the missing young woman. And then you had Reverend Stanton and his story, which I think that story was what we all dream of when we read about some of these people. It was a bit out of the realm of legal, shall we say, but it was satisfying. Does Dr. Ian Smith have a dark side?
Well, I wrote that side of Ashe. I won't give away too much to those who haven't read The Unspoken yet, but there's a side to him that is darker. And the reason why I created that was, number one, I found it to be very interesting, but also I feel like all of us, no matter how religious we may be, how nice we are, all of us will sometimes hear about some heinous crime or some heinous act, and then the person who's committed the heinous act seems to get off very lightly compared to the real damage that they caused. And I think that all of us at some point have said, geez, if only I could, and you fill in the blanks, right? And so what Ashe Cayne does is he fills in the blanks for us. And so we all can relate to having that feeling. But what Ashe does is Ashe acts on it, because remember, Ashe Cayne is a guy all about justice. It doesn't matter your color, your race, your gender, your age, nothing. All he cares about is fairness to everybody. And so Ashe Cayne allows us to be able to watch someone act on the thoughts that we have when we think that someone has not been served proper justice.
I'll never look at peanut butter the same way.
Wonderful.
It really, really was brilliant. I just loved that part of the story. I was chuckling as I read it. This book, it can take you to any number of emotions. You feel like crying and laugh along. You get this feeling of, oh, goody, justice is done. It's a good book. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, Ann, I have to say to you that you obviously have read it very carefully, because you have picked up on some very keen and acute things that not every casual reader will pick up on. And as an author and a writer, I appreciate you really understanding the nuances, because sometimes the story is between the lines. It's not always kind of what's right in front of you. And yes, you went through a catharsis, all these different emotions, which is what my intention was. And I won't give too much away, but something happens to one of the characters that is very sad to me. A lot of people who've read the book have said to me, why did you do that to him? I love that guy. And I loved him too. You know, part of what your job is as an author is to move the plot along, to elicit emotions from readers, to do sometimes things that are unexpected without being just gratuitous. Unfortunately, certain things have to happen in order for other things to happen. I just want to say to you that I appreciate how you have read it so carefully and how you have really paid attention to these small little things that others may just skip over. It's very nice and gratifying as an author that you've recognized.
Well, that's one of the things we strive to do on this podcast, is make sure we know what we're talking about. We don't just read the cover and say, oh, let's report on this book. Get all the meat out of it we can. I appreciate your appreciation. Well, can you tell our listeners your website so they can find you in your books?
Yes, my website is driansmith.com. Spell the doctor out, I-A-N Smith. If you're on Instagram, it's the same thing, Dr. Ian Smith with the doctor spelled out. And on Twitter, it's D-R-I-A-N Smith. And if you're a TV watcher, I'm also the host of The Doctor, so you may want to check that out. It's a lot of fun. I'm the new host this season by myself.
Oh, you are? Oh.
Yep. It's a new and improved show with a lot of different segments I think you guys will love. We actually have a book club too, by the way, called the Word Power Book Club. So go to our website, thedoctorstv.com, and join our book club. It's a lot of fun. And lastly, I want to say to you that Wolf Point, which is my next book in the Ashe Cayne series, has been completed. It's on Amazon.com. You can pre-order it now. But Wolf Point is a story about the Board of Education president of Chicago is found half submerged in the Chicago River of what is believed to be an apparent suicide. However, his children go to Ashe Cayne as he's finishing a workout to Ashe Cayne, help us find who killed our father. And the journey begins.
Ooh, sounds good. I can't wait to read it. Well, Dr. Ian, we thank you so much for talking with us today. We hope you stay safe and healthy, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
And thank you so much. And please, everyone who's listening, please be safe. Life is so fragile and so precious, important to all of us. So be safe, be patient, and we'll get through this together. And thank you so much for enjoying The Unspoken. I hope to talk to you again.
Thanks, Ian. Bye-bye. Okay. I really enjoyed this book. Like I told Ian in the interview, there were 3 separate stories in this book. I really enjoyed this character, and the storyline just seemed to flow, and I enjoyed that.
The 3 stories come together, but it's not confusing.
Exactly. Some books are a struggle to read. You like one part, but you're not wild about another part. This whole thing kind of merged together and just flowed very easily. I really thought it was very well done, and I look forward to reading the next book in the series.
Well, I tell you, I think one of the best compliments I could give this book is it has the feel of a Robert B. Parker novel. I love Robert B. Parker novels.
One of those more hard-boiled detective cut no